We'll start today with the topic, next topic in the Unit 2 of Railways. But prior to that, just a quick recap of what we covered in the last lecture. So, we started the second unit, and the first topic that we covered yesterday was the rail joints. Mainly, we saw that we require joints in two cases. Suppose you are joining a rail to rail or a rail to another component of your permanent way. So, in that case, we require joints, and rail joints are specifically used to join two rails. So, in that case, the main point that we saw was a joint is the weakest link, and in that case, your rail joints they reduce your strength of the rail track by 50% almost. Then we saw what should be the ideal requirements of a joint, and then we looked into the detailed of each type of this 10 joints. So first we saw the supported rail joint, in which you have a joint slipper which is supporting the gap between two rails. Then you have a suspended type, in which the only difference is the joint slipper is absent and the gap is kept suspended between two shoulder slippers. In the bridge joint, the gap is supported by a fish plate, which is nothing but a metal plate in a curved shape. And generally, we don't use this type of joint in Indian Railways. Then you have a base joint, which is a bit complicated in design aspect, as in you have two different types of fish plates. The inner one is a simple bar type, but the outer one, it is a special angle type, so that the shape matches the shape of the foot of the flat-footed rail, and as well as the bridge plate and the sleeper. So its leg is connected to the sleeper and the bridge plate at different locations. Then we saw a welded joint. Now it's almost, you can say it's an ideal type of joint. So in that, just the gap is filled between gap between the two rails. It's filled by a weld material. Then we saw staggered and square type of joint. Staggered we saw, which mainly have the joints on opposite rails in zigzag manner. So you find this on the curved section. And the square joints, mainly you find it parallel to each other, the joints. So this is found in the straight sections. Then you have a compromise joint, in which if you have two different types of rails, so you can joint it. And in that case, you only have a small indentation or small change in shape of your fish plate, which is connecting it. Insulated joint is to cut off the track circuiting. So I told you that if anyone is interested in it, track circuiting, you can just go to the web and search on it. And the last one was the expansion joint, in which such gaps are maintained at particular distance, so that it allows the expansion of the free expansion of the rails, and then thermal stresses are not induced to a certain limit. So this is the types. Then we covered the evil effects of the joints, and mainly to overcome these effects, we have some remedies, such as we can use this shims or repressed fish plates, and some other remedies which are more of a regular maintenance work which goes on in the railways. So all these are different regular maintenance work. So today we'll be covering again a short topic on welding of rails. So to start with, we all know, or you must have seen at some point of time in your life, what is welding. Many of you might have also done the hands-on during your first year in the workshop, I believe, so in which you were given the basic knowledge of welding. So mainly what is done is in welding is, if you have two pieces of metal, in this case you have two pieces or two rails, okay, those are continuous on one end, So you have to join this. So you can join it by placing some metal in between them, and this metal should be such that it makes this discontinuous joint a continuous section. So this insertion of metal, it is done by the process of welding, okay, and the metal itself, it is called as a weld. So the purpose, it's very simple. We saw in the starting of yesterday's lecture that in case of a joint, almost 50% strength is reduced of your system. So if you are reducing your system strength by 50%, so it's not a very good sign from the functioning point of view. So we have to come up with some solution to it. So one solution is welding of rails. The moment you weld a rail, this 50% no more remains 50. It just has some significant drop or some small negligible drop as well of 5 to 10% in strength, or in some cases of welding, it not only drops but it also increases in few amount. So that's the purpose, that to increase the strength as well as to increase the length of the rails. So we are joining two parts of a rails, so we are eliminating the discontinuity and we are making the rail continuous. In that case, we are increasing the length of the rail and reducing the number of joints. Now obviously if we do this, if we reduce this number of joints, so obviously we are cutting down on the economical aspect, because we have seen yesterday again that almost 30% of cost, maintenance cost, it goes for the maintenance of your joints, and if we are reducing it, so we are saving this 30% cost. So that's the main purpose why we go for the welding of rails. In this picture what you see, it's a typical example that this is the first rail and this the second, and it is joint in between. It's an ongoing process. Photo is of an ongoing welding process. So this is the part where the welding is taking place. So the advantage is, if you look into the welding of rails, so as I told you, it's almost a perfect joint or an ideal joint. So mainly the life of the rail, it is increased, and maintenance cost, as I said, it is reducing the maintenance cost. Whatever is the 30% extra we need for maintaining a joint, so we reduce that cost, and we also reduce the creep due to increase in length. Now creep, I don't know if most of you have heard it or not. Creep is a phenomena that you are expected to study in stresses and strain, but nevertheless, creep is nothing but a permanent deformation or a slow movement in your material if it is subjected to some stresses for a prolonged period. Now, in case of railways, our rails are subjected to two kind of stresses: the load that comes on your rail and the temperature variation that comes in your system. So these two kinds of loads are for a prolonged period. It's not like we are using the rail only for one month or 1 year and then we are discarding it. So we use it for a prolonged moment. So that prolonged use and prolonged effect of this loading and temperature causes a permanent deformation in your rails, and that is known as creep. So welding of rail, it also reduces this creep factor. Then the expansion effect due to temperature is reduced, and as I told, the discontinuity also is reduced. So in that case, the weakness or the weak links in the system are reduced. Okay, and once we join rails by welding, so we are increasing the rail length, and that makes the total system heavier with less gaps. So the heavy system, it helps in dampening the vibrations that are coming from the moving load. So that's an indirect advantage. This one is an indirect advantage, you can say, for your welding. Okay. So these are the different advantages of welding of a rail. Now coming to the main two types of welded rail that we find in Indian Railway. So the first one is the short welded rail. Okay, now again a typical picture is shown here. Generally you can't just by visible or visual observation you can't tell whether the rail is short welded or long welded. The main difference is in the length, okay, the short and long. So what happens in short welded rail is the rails are welded in some intervals. So this is the important point to note down, that they are welded in 3, 5 or 10 rail length. So it's a general practice, at least in the Indian Railways, that the length of a rail, it is not measured in meter or kilometer, but it is measured in rail length. So this rail length is nothing but, the explanation is given here, that one rail length, it is equal to 13 meter in case of a broad gauge and 12 meter in case of a meter gauge. So when I say that my rail is of one rail length, so that means if it's a broad gauge, it is a 13-meter rail. And if I say it's a 2 rail length, so that means it's 26 meters. So like that, the system goes on. So in short welded rails, they are welded in this fashion: 3 rail length, 5 rail length, or 10 rail length. So 3 rail length means it's a 39-meter long rail. So one rail is 39-meter, another rail is 39-meter, and then you have a gap in between which you fill it using the weld. Okay. Same is for 5 and 10. So I hope you understood the concept of this rail length. And what is another important aspect of this short welded rail is the expansion and contraction that will take place, as it's a metal. We all know rail is a metal. So any metal, when subjected to temperature variation, it will expand or contract. So this expansion and contraction will be throughout the length of the rail. Now, what I mean by this throughout, you will come to know once I explain you the second version of this welded rail, that is the long welded rail. So short welded, 2 points to remember, that it expands and contracts throughout its length, and then it is welded in the 3, 5 or 10 rail length section. Now coming to the long welded rail. So what it is, it's just change in the length, that minimum it is a 200-meter for broad gauge or 300-meter for meter gauge, and maximum length of this long welded rail, it goes up to 1 kilometer max. So here we saw the length of your short welded, it was either 39-meter or 65-meter or 130-meter. So 130 was the maximum length in the short welded rails, that one rail is 130-meter on this side and 130-meter on this side. So when you weld them, it becomes a 260-meter length, like that something. But in case of long welded, the minimum length itself is 200-meter. Okay. And the main difference in long welded and short welding is, if you see this figure at the bottom, so this is my total long welded rail section. Suppose LWR is nothing but long welded rail. Okay. So suppose this is, for understanding purpose, if I take 100-meter, so if this total length of long welded rail is 100-meter, so the expansion and contraction which will go in this long welded rail, it will not happen in the complete 800-meter. Okay. So here you can see you have two types in it, the breathing length and the non-breathing length. So breathing length is nothing but at the end of these rails. So out of this 800 meters, suppose last 100 meter on both sides. So this is just for understanding purpose, I am taking these values. Okay. So the ends of this 800 meter, that is 100 meter on this left side, 100 meter on right side, only these length will be the lengths which will undergo expansion and contraction. So those are termed as the breathing length. And the central section, which is this one, which comes out to be 600 meter in this case or this example. So this 600 meter, it will be a non-breathing length, as in it will not undergo any expansion or contraction due to the temperature variation. Okay, so no expansion and no contraction in this non-breathing length, and only expansion and contraction will be in this breathing length, which is at the ends of the rails. So that's the main difference between the long welded and the short welded rail, other than the difference in length. And whatever is this expansion at the end, so that expansion, it is expansion is allowed using this expansion joint that we had discussed yesterday. So whatever these kind of joints you see, expansion joints, so they are mainly at the end of this long welded rail. Okay, so these joints are nothing but the expansion joints that we saw in the yesterday's lecture. Okay, they are also now termed as a switch expansion joint. In Indian Railways, you can find this short form SEJ, which is nothing but switch expansion joint, which is at the end of your LWR section. LWR is nothing but long welded rail. Then coming to the methods of welding of rail. So mainly you have four methods by which you can weld a rail. The first two I have shown here. The first one is the electric arc welding, or this is the most common type, even if you are not welding rail, even if you are welding any metal. So this arc welding is seen in the first picture here. So this is the first picture of the arc welding, in which you have a electrode or a weld through which a current is passed, and when you pass the current, the electrode or the weld, it melts and it fills the gap between these two rails. So that's why it is also called as metal arc welding or electric arc welding. The second type you can see in this second picture on the right, it is oxyacetylene welding, or we also call it as gas welding. So in this, a mixture of acetylene and oxygen gas is passed, and it is flammable mixture. So once you light it on, so it is capable of joining the two metals or two rails by just melting the metal which is at the contact surface or the gap surface. Now generally this oxyacetylene welding, it is preferred more for cutting purposes rather than welding purposes. So if you have to cut any metal, so for that this oxyacetylene flame is used. But sometimes in railways it is also used for welding. Now both these types, arc welding as well as gas welding, these are preferred only if you have some on-site job to be done, and in that also it's a repair kind of job. Okay, if you have already a welded rail section somewhere, and if you have to just repair it, a few pieces of the weld have been disintegrated, so if you have to just fill the gaps, small gaps in the already welded section, or you have to cut a section of a rail, then only we go for these two types of welding, that is electric welding and the gas welding. So that's the point to remember, that on site and only for repair purpose these two types are used, and gas welding, more it is used for cutting purposes. The next two types that we have, flash butt welding and thermit welding. So the diagram on your left, top left, this number 3, this is the flash butt welding, and the one on your right, it is fourth one, the thermit welding. So what happens in flash butt welding is, you have two rails. Okay, suppose these are the two rails, and this is the gap that you have to fill. So what is done is, a machine, this is the machine which is fitted over this rail, both the rails, and what this machine does basically is it passes a current. Okay, if I just draw a battery over here, so a current will flow, or a current is made to flow in this system. Now we all know the basics of electric circuit, that once a current moves in your system, the components which carry the current, they get heated. So purposefully the current passed is of a larger magnitude, so that the rails, this rail 1 and rail 2, it will get heated. And once they are heated, they are pushed towards each other with some pressure, and that's why you can see the size of the machine is quite large. So once the current is passed and once temperature starts rising for both the rails, they are pushed towards each other, and they are pushed until they are in contact with each other. Okay, so once in contact, it will create such a spark or a flash. That's why the name flash butt welding. And once this flash is seen, then again this pressure is increased, so that the increased pressure and increased temperature, it will cause the surface of the uh, contact between the two rails to melt, and then it will be joined. So that is nothing but flash butt welding. And this kind of welding, it is only suitable in work shed or workshops. That is, you have welding can be done in two places. In case of rails, it can be done in workshop also, and it can be done in field also. So in the last slide, we saw that this arc welding and gas welding, they are more preferred for on-site job, because you can see the machinery required is not that much. You just require electricity supply for a short duration in arc welding and a gas supply in gas welding. But that is not the case in flash butt welding. You require this huge machinery, so it's very difficult to use this machinery on site. So there are workshops or work sheds where you can uh, manufacture this welded rails. So in those workshop, whatever is the welding, it is done by this flash butt welding. So that's the point to remember, that this is not suitable for field one, or even for small works. If you have suppose 1,000 rails that you have to join, so this 1,000 rails, joining this 1,000 rails is a large quantity of work. And if it is done in workshop, so then flash butt welding is preferred. And the last type is chemical or thermit welding. Now this is the most common used on field process, thermit welding. And again, it has a lot more of variation depending on the manufacturing company. So one of them is, you can see here, what is the main ideology in this is, again, you have two rails, okay, rail 1 and rail 2, and there is some assembly which is placed at the top of this rails, okay, and there is a mold which is placed below, and there is some chemical. It is also known as thermit. The name of the chemical itself, it is thermit, and it is ignited, and once it melts, it fills in this gap, okay, and it will take the shape of the mold which we have used, and then the mold is removed, and then the shape is given, finishing is given to the rails. So yesterday what we saw in the welded rail, yeah, this one. So this is yesterday's slide. So I told you that this is what a welding looks like. So this is an example of a thermit weld. So they have removed all the assembly which was used, and just the cooled down welded portion they have shown. So this is what you get after a thermit weld, and then you just grind it to level it off. So in the Google Classroom, the document that I have uploaded related to point-wise syllabus coverage, that acts as a index for your course. So in that you will be finding today that I have updated that sheet or document, and you will find video links in which you can see this workshop. There is one video related to the rail workshop or rail welding workshop, and there are two to three videos related to this thermite welding. Okay, so there are a lot of variation, but the concept is same. Okay, so this is all related to the welding of rails. So just to summarize, welding, you have a purpose for welding, you have some advantages which are mainly related to the strength aspect. Then you have two types, short welded rail and long welded rail. The main difference is short welded, whatever is the expansion contraction, it takes place throughout the rail length, whatever is it is 100 meter or 200 meter or 300 meter. But in case of long welded rail, the expansion and contraction only takes place at the ends, and the central portion it remains as it is. So it's a non-breathing length, termed as the length which does not undergo expansion contraction, and the length which undergoes expansion contraction, it is the breathing length. And the joint which is provided for this expansion contraction is the switch expansion joint, SEJ, or simply expansion joint that we saw last lecture. And then we have methods, the four different methods: arc welding and gas welding. It's generally for on-site and small repair works. Gas welding or the oxyacetylene welding, it is mainly for cutting purpose. And the third and fourth type, flash butt welding, it is mainly used for large quantity of welding works and mainly in workshop in a closed environment. And the fourth one, the thermite mixing, it is the widely used on-field applicable type of welding. So that's all for today. We'll stop here. In the next lecture, we'll be starting with the gradient related to the railways.